Bigfoot, undisputedly the world's most entertaining cryptid. Join the Reverend Jeff Kelly and your old pal Wes as they discuss the best and worst the media has to offer. Movies, books, TV shows, commercials, all on Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly.
This program may contain adult language, content, and graphic discussion of gore. Parental supervision is required.
That's right, because we're fucking back and it's season 2. I'm Reverend Jeff. That's the old pal Wes. And we're back with Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly. That's right. Why are we doing it? Well, because it's going to be fun. Feed the gods is what we're talking about tonight. The old pal Wes gives me a message the other night. I can't get this goddamn movie to work. And I'm like, what movie are you trying to watch? It's like, Feed the Gods? Boom. The old Reverend Jeff here goes out to YouTube and finds himself a Feeds the God link and says, guess what? Season 2 opener, biatch. So this week we've been watching Feed the Gods, and that's what's going on with us tonight. And I'm glad y'all are here along. I see 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20. Holy crap, 45, 60, 80, 100 viewers. Oh, there we go. 100 people, first of the year. We're back online, Wes. Let's get into it. Feed the Gods.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you were saying, Hulu. I'm going to say your name and throw you out there because Hulu does not want you to watch Feed the Gods because about every 2 minutes in that movie, I got kicked off the goddamn network. So that shit just pissed me the fuck off. So thank you, Rev, for finding this because it is a really good watch. So
I had seen this one before, and
yeah.
I had forgotten what it was about. And it was just one of those moments where, like, the first 2 minutes into it, I was like, oh, it's this one. Damn, Skippy, I really like this movie. The beginning of it kind of sets it up to be, I don't know.
Yeah, you get that with the dude. And he's got this shotgun, right? And it's dark. You know, this movie's really dark. Through a lot of it, it's dark in this movie. But, and what I mean by dark is it's dark and...
It's dark. You have to read a lot into it. The storyline was very, very small. IMDb says 2 brothers return to a small mountain town in search of their long-lost parents, only discover that the place has a monstrous taste for tourists. And that's pretty much all IMDb said about it. Kind of left us in a lurch here. Thanks a lot. But I tell you, I kind of like it that way because I didn't expect too much.
Yeah, no, it was all new in your head. You're not thinking what's going to happen. So, right off the bat, all right? So it starts out and, this truck pulls up. This lady's got some kids and there's this, exchange going down and you're not understanding what the fuck's going on just yet. And the guy with the shotgun comes up talking about, you need tickets and shit like that. And the lady only had 2 tickets. She
that was
3.
already... the first deliverance moment. Only 2 tickets, only 2 passengers.
Yeah, so this whole thing happens. This older lady pops up, says she'll take the kids, and some crying, womanly, saying goodbye to my kids thing, and so they end up, being rushed off and drive off, right? So you get this.
Mark this spot in your mind for later discussion about those kids having tickets and how they got them. Moving along. You get the lady that just gave up her kids. She's crying. She starts hearing this noise, this stomp, and she gets down on her knees, and you see this dark silhouette, but kind of an eye. You're getting out of it. And it's Biggie, and you hear screaming, and then you cut, and it starts out as a funeral. Bum, 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 yeah. Bum, 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 bum. Now, this is where we get introduced to the actual characters of the movie. And any of you that are fans of the new Norman Bates Motel show on TV will probably agree with me that little pissant reminded me of the kid that plays Norman Bates on that show, and all I wanted to do was cunt punt him the moment that I saw him. Anyhow,
the
moving
prick
right along,
brother,
the
brother
little
prick.
the little kid, not the big muscle bound kid, the scrawny little dude that looks like
Yeah, the one that was on the pills, right?
yeah, the one that was on the pills, the little punk
Yeah,
kid.
okay. He looked like Tom Cruise to me.
Yeah, there was a scene. I agree that I looked at him and went, "Oh damn, look, Tom Cruise," and he was like 12.
Yeah, so you get this, a guy's reading a sermon and you're seeing one, like, you're getting a mix of the future and the past wrapped up into, dude was getting ready for the funeral, but you're hearing the sermon at the funeral in these scenes that you're seeing in the beginning. And you're seeing one brother's getting shaved and getting dressed all nice and in a suit. One brother's lighting up a joint.
Fans want to know when the movie was made, and according to IMDb, it was released in 2014. So it was released by Brandon Croft was the director. He was also the writer. Brandon Croft, Braden, I guess it is, Braden Croft. It looks like he was not in the movie. So he just directed it and wrote it and had other people star in it. It was released in 2014. So there you go.
Yeah, so you get this little blondie, walking out, and she's looking for someone, and she goes to the garage, and she's looking up in the attic, hole, and calling out dude's name. And so you get that dude hops out, and he was smoking a joint in there and everything. So he's talking with the little blondie and everything, and then it cuts from that scene to the two brothers sitting next to each other, and they're talking with, I'm guessing is a lawyer because he's reading a will, right? Like,
yeah,
so he's getting
I would
the last
say
possessions.
Right, he's the lawyer giving up grandma's goodies. Now, technically, she's not really grandma.
Yeah, no. But so they get this box, and I think it was funny because in that scene that dude's so lit and he's just like laying there half asleep, and it was funny. So one dude, the cool brother, I call him the cool brother because he smokes, obviously, but
Right.
And plus he was the more, he wasn't a dick,
Well,
so
we'll talk about him not being a dick here in the woods in a couple of minutes. But anyhow.
yeah, well, I mean, still, but so he's watching, he sees this video and he gets, the VCR put together, and then he's, watching this video and he sees his parents on it, so he like, he's like, they're in this town, and, like, holy shit, so then he ends up like going and talking to his brother, showing him the video and everything. And so it shows them.
I was hoping it was going to be like movie 43 at that point, but unfortunately it was not.
Yeah, so they show the brother trying to like tell him, hey, look, so this town's only this far away. They have this thing called Sasquatch Watch, and like starts talking about all this stuff. So you get these, like things like, okay, this is gonna be about Bigfoot too, So it's like, so then the brother's like, oh, are you serious? Like, you're crazy. These people gave us up, and everything. And so then you get the brothers arguing, of course, going back and forth. But, they end up, that's the moment when I wrote in my notes, too. This dude looks just like Tom Cruise, Like,
Yeah.
So it obviously is morning. Dude's walking out to the garage, I guess, to get on his bike and shit. And then he sees his brother and the little blondie all packed, ready to go. And like, he's like, "What? You thought I was gonna let you go there on a 10-speed?" Like, so the brothers, you could tell the brothers they still love each other. Like in certain moments.
But when you come from a fucked up situation like that, there's never any normalcy. I mean, for God's sakes, your mother gave you away to some woman that you didn't even know to go live with for the rest of your life while she knelt down and, I don't know what she was doing.
Well, she told him to make sure they never come back.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
at that
I paid my
exchange, you know,
life
to that lady.
right. I mean, yeah, we're gonna get back to what they gave to get out of town,
Yeah.
and then these little shits go back to town. I guess this is a good moment to talk about it since they're packing up to go back to town. Basically, their mother gave up her life in sacrifice to the Sasquatch to let these kids get away. That's how people are getting tickets to get out of this town, and now the little shits are packing up to go back into this crazy ass town. That's not very nice.
Yeah. So they're, you know, now you're seeing the footage of them on their mission to get to this place, Tendale, right? And then you get this like intense bongo drum sesh. Like that shit was dope. It was like war drums and shit while they were like rolling into this town. Like I was like, fuck yeah, this movie's like
And
dope.
then all
Even
of a
the
sudden,
music.
what do we get? We get another deliverance.
Yeah. So they stop at this gas station, and the dude's like getting a Biggie book, you know, like he's found, you know, a Bigfoot book, and he's reading about it and everything. So then they get back on the road again, and dude falls asleep in the back seat. He wakes up, and there's like this big, like, hillbilly looking dude, like, just staring at him.
I
And
was
there's
like,
like
okay, are we getting back into butt rape? Is this, this Lost
so
Boys too?
yeah. So the dude gets up, and then there's a note, you know, and, you know, welcome to this town or whatever and shit like that. So this dude's like recording himself, like standing out
Yeah, and
by
all of a
this
sudden
highway.
it's found footage film.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the
dude's
bits
running
and
around with his own,
pieces. Yeah,
with his
yeah.
own camcorder.
So he's filming himself, and then you hear this like movement, and then like a whistle, and you see him start to go, "What the fuck is that?" And then he turns his camera, and I've seen this footage before. It's not the same footage, but I know these people are reenacting this shit. But there's an actual footage where a guy and a kid are, and it's the same scene where it's far as fuck away, and you see the Bigfoot go back into the hill, and you heard this like whistle and shit like that. And the same thing happens in this movie. You hear that little whistle, and then you see this thing go back inside and everything, and dude's like, "Oh shit!" So then you get the, like, right after you get that scene, it's back to the douchebag brother, Tom Cruise, and fucking Lil Blondie, and they're like about to have a moment where they're gonna kiss. And this is when Cool Bro comes in and is like, "Holy shit, I just saw something." You know, so like they end up driving off, and they go to the, like, they go to the scene where, you know, the car moves by, and then you see the barbers, like, from the thing, like, they all have this like creepy ass look, and they just follow them, like, watching them drive away and shit. That was fucking creepy. So then they end up at this B&B, right? And like it's like protected by an electric fence. So they had to like go walking in the dark and leave their car parked outside of the electric fence or whatever.
Right, because it's live. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like, duh. That's what the sign said.
So
Usually, when I come across a sign that says electric fence, I usually trust that it's actually an electric fence.
yeah.
I've never had to pee on one to check to find out.
So the next scene you get is just these people banging in this like second story window and shit, and dude's videotaping it, and then he gets it, you know, like his brother and the like owner of the B&B and like the little blondie are right there, and they're like, "What are you doing?" You know, like he's all like having this embarrassed moment and shit that I thought was funny. Yeah, so then the next scene, dude's like in his room in the cabin, and he's like just videotaping shit, and then he's just like focused on this little, like, you know, little statue of it. Like, you can't tell it's a Bigfoot, it just looks like this like brown carving of a person, like, you know, like with a longer head and shit, you know. So it was like you could tell like there's gonna be some mystery about this, you're gonna see it more or something, you know, the way that he focused on it and shit. So then the next scene is where the brother and little Blondie are unpacking or whatever, and the owner of the B&B pops up. The little Blondie ends up going to the bathroom or something, and then there's that conversation scene between the owner of the B&B and Tom Cruise for a minute, and then she, walks off and stuff. So then the next thing is, you get the scene of the people that were banging upstairs. You find out are Australian tourists, all right?
Right,
And
they hear it.
yeah, so they're sitting around the fire, and I think it's funny because I know some Australians and shit like that, and they say this to fucking all Americans to make Americans think that this is a real creature. It's like kind of like how we say go on a snipe hunt or whatever,
Right.
but they talk about drop bears. Like they're not real. They're fucking crazy koala bears that jump and attack you and shit. They try and scare Americans and shit with that shit. I'm sure our Australian viewers will agree that drop bears are not real. But so the dude's getting this like story about these bears, and he's all like, "What? Crazy?" And then he finds out that, well, what are you guys out here for? Fucking Bigfoot, mate. So it's like this whole funny scene where they're just like, yeah, we're gonna fucking find Bigfoot, and all this shit.
Squatch watch. That's right, mate. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So then
you gotta take me with you, bro. You gotta take me with you.
Yeah. So then he's yeah, because then this dude who you realize is the guy with the fucking shotgun in the beginning of the fucking movie.
Right.
And he's like, no, who are you? Why are you here? And everything like that. He's questioning Tom Cruise, or not Tom Cruise, but Cool Brother. And Cool Brother's like, well, I found this videotape. And so the guy's all interested in the videotape. And was like, yeah, I'll take you with them if you give me the videotape. And I would think that's fucking weird right in that moment. I would be like, okay, what the fuck's up going on right here,
Yeah, that was just like, that was one of those moments. It was like, okay, it's time to like get in the car and like get the fuck back out of this car.
Yeah, because so then dude goes and he's like talking to the brother, like, I gotta find the tape. I'll be able to go on this thing. Why does the guy want the tape? Well, who wants the tape for this? So they're like, he's trying to find the tape, and then he's like, oh fuck, it's in the car, So then he goes to check the car, and then while he's looking around in the car, one of the doors gets slammed. And so he freaks out. He starts talking to himself and shit like that. But then, like, right as he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go out. Chicks dig scars, like. So he pops up out of the car and shit. This guy was funny through the whole movie. I liked him. But he pops out of the car and he's like, like, fuck, what's going on? This was a mistake. And he turns around and it's just the owner of the B&B. Right. And she's just like, hey, do you need help or whatever? And so he was like, oh shit, So then the dude that takes the fucking, it gets to this scene where you're seeing the dude and he's walking with the Aussie people out in the dark, and he's like, oh, right up here, this is, you're going to get what you came for, and stuff like that. And that's the last you see of that scene. And then the next morning, they wake up and their car was left with the doors open and the battery dead, and the movie was gone.
Right.
All right. So then they end up having the girl that owns the B&B drive them into town and everything, and they were going to do stuff. And that guy that took the Aussies out pulls up behind them, and he's driving slow and following them. And then they get this like aerial view, and you see this like tarp wrapped in the back of his truck that's like in the shape of a body.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, dude, here we go.
You got
like
party
I'm thinking it's gonna be that shit, and then so the chick ends up talking with Cool Bro on the drive out, because it's just those two, and like she's dropping the Cool Bro off, and they're talking about, finding his parents and, like fixing things with his brother. And it was like this real moment where this chick ended up like, you could tell like she
Started to
ended up
bond with him a little bit.
like him,
Yeah.
and care about, what happens to these people.
Right.
And you could tell she's like really like upset. And then you find
Because she
out,
knows what's going to
yeah.
happen to these people.
And then, yeah, basically you find out that she's in on this shit because she pulls out the fucking walkie-talkie after he gets out, and she's like, yeah, everything's okay. And then you just know, okay, this whole town's fucking shady as fuck. Like,
Yeah, this is almost cult-like behavior going on for the greater good. And if you've not seen a Hot Fuzz, you should watch it. Anyhow.
Yeah. So then he's walking through town and he's looking through windows, and every business has one of those little statues in like some part of the business near the window. All right. So, and then he's like starting to notice like there's these red stripes painted on doors in town and, on walls and shit like that. And he's like, you're getting these scenes and stuff like that. And then so he ends up in this barber shop again. And he's talking to the guy, and the guy's like, well, if you want answers, I need business, So he sits down, and he's getting shaved, and he's asking questions, right? So then he mentioned his parents' names, and the barber's like, yeah, I never heard of them. There's so many tourists that come through here and everything. And he goes, well, the person that raised me was actually, so-and-so, but everyone called her Baba. And then right at that moment, the dude drops the razor to a point where he cuts his thumb, and he's like, shit. Like, I would be like, yeah, I'm good on a shave. Right at that moment.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
be like, no, I'm good.
I'll be like, yeah,
So then, clearly, that he knows about Baba. Like, so
right.
it's like, and so like, dude's getting shaved, and then so dude like moves the subject to the statues, and then he gets told about the wild man statues is what they're called, and he gets told about the legend and shit like that.
Right.
And then after that, like he's asking like, well, where'd all this happen and everything like that. And he ends up getting a map drawn out for him.
Yeah. What's up with that? I mean,
yeah, that right there, I would have been like, yeah, fuck you, bro.
Okay, so you don't want to go to the cult house. So here, let me draw you the creepy map of how not to get to the cult house.
Yeah. So then bro meets up with the brother and little Blondie, and then they end up getting dropped off and plan to hike.
Yeah,
to
what
this
the fuck?
thing.
Really?
All right.
The creepiest fucking town you've ever been in. Now all of a sudden you want to go sleep in the fucking woods. Not me.
Yeah.
Not my. No. Can somebody call me a greyhound? I need out of this town.
At this point, with how shady the town is, I feel like
I'm
they
out.
had better chances in the woods.
Well, it turns out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But so then they hike in, and then you get Tom Cruise, like he hasn't taken his pills, so he's starting to fucking be a dick, and he starts, talking shit to the other brother. They
Adderall
argue.
boy.
Yeah, they scuffle, and then out pops the Adderall fucking pill jar, and Blondie picks it up, and so there's this whole scene, like she's like, what the fuck, and like, the brother's just like laughing his ass off because he's like, well, yeah, you
I'm
sit
sorry,
here and judge
Adderall
me, asshole.
Adderall is the legal cocaine. I mean, that's literally what Adderall is. People who do cocaine, when they can't get cocaine, they do Adderall. So this kid was basically a friggin' user, and he living with his girlfriend, and she didn't know it, and she was pretty pissed off to find out about it.
Yeah. So then they set up, tents and everything to camp, and Blondie straight just locks him out of the tent. It's like, you're sleeping with your brother tonight,
dickwad.
But then you get this moment that all brothers will have if you're ever scuffling with your brother or anything, and you guys are stuck in a room together after that. You end up laughing at yourselves and making jokes.
You end up laughing at him farting at you.
Yeah, so they joke around and they have a moment, about, the dude doing Adderall and shit, then he farts and gets him to laugh and shit. And then the scene, you get the chick like trying to wake up everyone, like, or trying to wake up Tom
Yeah,
Cruise.
you
Like,
don't want nothing to do with me, but now all of a sudden I gotta wake up. Fuck you,
yeah.
bitch.
So she's waking him
Handle it.
up, and she's scared, and she's talking about there's 3 knocks, and then it stops, and then 3 knocks, and stuff like that. So then you're getting it, and then he's all, well, where the hell's whatever the fuck his name was, Cool Bro. And she's like, I don't know, you know. So then you see Cool Bro, and he's walking out in the woods, and then you find out he got that gun that he saw in the garage at the funeral, you know.
Right.
So he's got this gun, and he's like looking, and he's hearing things moving and walking. You're seeing rustling in the bush and stuff like that, and he just caps off like 3 or 4 shots, you know.
Well, nobody should have been out there. Straight the fuck
No.
up. There should have been no humans out there. And what happens?
Yeah, so then you get some scuffling, and then you get the owner of the B&B. She's walking out, and she's like, "Oh, I think you just grazed me," and then she
And she
falls over.
collapses. Yeah.
Yeah, so then
Okay,
in my
just getting
notes right
crazed doesn't
here,
cause people to fucking collapse, okay?
yeah, this seems like it's like there's a lot of shit going on. A lot of people are saying shit. So in my notes, it just says shit ensues. And then I start writing once the girls are trying, the blondie's trying to get the owner of the B&B, who's I think name's Emma, trying to get this, to a hospital. Then she ends up finding out that there is no hospital, and Emma has to basically like spit up some blood to say they're gonna kill you if you try to take me to get help and stuff. We have to, you know, there's a truck behind it, you know, it is pulling them over and stuff like that. So she has to like sit up and like suck it in, you know, and just act like she did not just get shot in the gut and stuff. And she was sitting there screaming right up until the dude walks up. And so she talks to him, and then you kind of just get off of that scene, you know? So then
Right. It's just
you
like all
don't
of a
see
sudden,
what happened. Yeah, you don't see what happened or anything. And so then the other bro, while he's, you know, like this
Adderall boys running around the woods calling
so
out the
Tom
older brother's
Cruise
name.
is looking for the other brother. The other brother was looking for the other brother, and I guess ended up in a cave. I don't know if he's in a cave or like an old cabin. I don't know what the fuck's he's in.
It's
because
really dark. Yeah.
He found a thing of matches. All right, so he was using that, and like he finds this like fucking
Skull?
grave. Well, yeah, that brother finds that in like the cave, but in stuff he hears that whistle while he's in it, you know, a couple of times, you know, and everything. And then you get cut to Tom Cruise, and then he found like this like area of all stones with names and dates and stuff, and realizes he's in a graveyard, and he ends up finding his fucking parents' grave. And so then while that scene's going on, and he looks down and he sees it's his parents' thing, it cuts to Cool Bro in the cave, and he turns on the fucking, or he lights a lighter or match again. So yeah, and then he finds this like skull, and it's like this crazy demon Bigfoot looking skull and shit like that. And he hears this growl, and he just turns around and fucking just shoots, you know, like. And so then he runs off and fucking what's it called? He goes to the camp, and he finds his other brother, and he shows him the skull and everything. And right after that scene, you find out that little Blondie's locked up. And she's got a fucking chain around her neck, and she's like in some fucking, you know, cellar or some room or some shit, right? Then you cut to the scene, and you get the Aussie dude, and he's waking up, and he's like in the... And he's waking up, and he's got this whole fucking collar around his neck, and he's like chained to a tree and shit like that. And then there's this loud fucking noise that gets blasted in that area, and then you just see the Aussie dude just get dragged the fuck off.
Never seen the Bigfoot yet.
No.
But there's definitely a Bigfoot.
Yeah. So then you got Blondie chained up, and the guy is like explaining like to her, you know, the tickets and all that shit, and she's hooked to that tree now and everything. And he's like explaining like, "No, I get these tickets," and then she says something to him like "fuck you" or some shit, and he goes and he kisses her, and he just looks at her and he goes, "Oh, the gods are gonna love you." I love that shit.
I mean, how do we get into the whole curse of this town? We don't know anything about the curse of the town, how they got put under the curse of Biggie, how they got forced into freaking feeding people to the feeding tree. We don't know any of this,
You got
but
a
yet we
small
still believe it's
explanation.
going on.
Yeah, so you got this small little explanation of the ticket system and everything, right? So then it cuts, and you see the dude that's always had the shotgun, right? And he's talking to the barber and the barber's like apprentice or nephew or whatever the fuck, right? So they're all talking and they're arguing inside the B&B. And they're like, well, most likely these kids are already out of town and off and running off and everything. Well, how the fuck do we even plan on finding them? And then the brothers come right in the fucking door.
Running right in.
You know?
It was like a scene from the Boondock Saints.
Yeah, so then, like, it was funny. And so the brother's looking for his girlfriend and shit, and he's not finding her. And then, like, the dude's trying to jump the car and shit. And the one guy, the barber that's helping him, didn't even put the fucking thing on the battery. Did you notice that? Yeah, so
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, see, it won't work and everything like that. So then Cool Bro's like, you know what, fuck your car. You know what, it'll fucking get juiced up by this fence. You know, so then he goes to fucking hook that up somehow and then ends up and pushing the barber into the fucking fence, like, on accident, you know, and electrocutes the fucking dude to death and shit, you know, so that shit was funny. And then so you get the fucking kid, he runs in and fucking, he's like talking, trying to wake up the fucking chick, Emma or whatever, that's shot in the gut. She's on the couch in the B&B. All right, and he's sitting there and he's talking to her and stuff, and she's like trying to warn him, and like that dude's nephew, the barber's nephew, is coming at him, and fucking what's his name turns around and kills this fucking kid, dude, like just jabs him in the fucking neck,
right in the throat, dude. Wah! Fuck
So
yeah,
then-
dude.
So he's already killed 2 people, right? Cool, bro.
Yeah, the
So-
girl's almost dead, so that's about 3.
Yeah. So they go to fucking, he's going, and then he hear a noise, and then you got the dude with the shotgun, and he's got his brother over his shoulder. He's like, what the fuck are you doing with him? And he's getting ready to shoot him, and he's like, hey man, you know, you don't want to do this, and blah blah blah, and the guy's trying to back away, and then fucking you just gunshot, you know, because the back door opened and shit. And dude shot the fucking girl, the blonde Aussie chick that was just coming back in.
Right.
You know, like, she was like, oh my God, you know, like, this just happened to us and shit, and we're lost, you know, like, and she gets capped in the head because this dude was scared, you know, so he kills 3 fucking people at this moment, right? And then that's when he's like, oh shit, the fucking gun's empty. So they're all get their fucking, you know, necks braced up and locked to this tree.
If I woke up like that, bro, I would freak the fuck out. Like, collared and chained to a tree like that, that would be, oh no, that would be so freaky.
Yeah. So then Cool Bro now turns and psychometrizes into Smart Bro.
Right.
He is now Smart Bro because they're chained to this fucking tree. He's like, well, all we got to do is fucking lift this up over that stump to get out of here, you know? And they end up fucking doing it and stacking each other on top.
Almost hanging the bitch while they're doing it.
Almost hanging Blondie, but they saved her. But they get free and it works. So then they bust in the house and they're fighting with that fucking guy. I don't know what the guy's fucking name was. He's just the villain of the fucking.
Yeah, I don't know
you
either.
know?
But that was that was the moment. That was the most epic save your life friggin' phrase
Oh
I've ever
yeah,
seen in a movie. He busts through the door. The bad guy's pointing a gun at him, and dude goes, don't I get a bad guy speech?"
yeah.
It gives him just enough time to fuck with the bad guy, just
So
for his brother to
then
fucking clock
Blondie,
him.
yeah, Blondie fucking bashes dude in the head with the skull, the Bigfoot skull and shit like
Oh,
that.
it was in the
So
car.
yeah,
Remember that when you pick out my wedding ring. Yeah,
so
because
then
you can't leave a girl like that. Once
yeah,
she
so
saves your life, you can't leave a girl like that ever.
uh-uh.
She has to leave you.
Yeah, basically.
right,
Because she owns you now.
right, exactly,
So
exactly.
Cool Bro is like, fuck, okay, I'll go get the tapes. We're gonna fucking expose this town and blah blah blah. Right? So he's going downstairs to get the tapes and everything. And then so he gets up, and that's when the fucking guy's there again. He's all, "You want your fucking bad guy speech? You get your bad guy speech now." So then he
You
fucking
think I'm the bad guy here?
yeah. So he starts explaining himself a bit, and then fucking Biggie shows up and just mauls the motherfucker.
Dude. And was this? I think this was the CGI face Biggie.
Oh no.
Was it
No, it
mask?
was a mask. Yeah, it was
It
a
was hard
fucked
to
up
tell on
mask,
my.
but it
It
was
was
yeah.
my version of it wasn't the greatest. So
It looked like half wolf to me. You
yeah,
know,
that's
like
kind of what was strange looking. But
it
okay,
was
so it definitely
demonic. It was demonic Biggie.
it
It
was
wasn't like it was a demonic evil Biggie, kind of like how the ugly Biggie looks in Abominable.
right. So
But yeah, so then Cool Bro runs and fucking then he gets like stopped by Biggie because Biggie steps on his fucking neck chain, right? So then Tom Cruise and the little blondie are in the car like, "Oh god," he's like, "You guys gotta go and shit," you know. So
nice.
sorry, yeah. So
Yeah.
then like he has this like Mexican Cool Bro has this like Mexican standoff with fucking Bigfoot and shit. Like he's like,
Dan it.
I gotta get,
Dan
I
it.
gotta get these tapes, but at the
Dan
same
it.
time, like,
Dan it. Dan
so then
it.
dude like grabs and pulls his chain and then runs, grabs the tapes. The other brother escapes and drives off, and then Biggie comes and like dude didn't like really get away from Biggie too far, and he's like fell down. He gets on his knees and he's like kind of giving up at that moment. And Biggie comes up to him and just kind of like
Blesses him.
puts his hand on his head and
Gives him the Squatch blessing. May the Squatch be with you, my child.
and that's the last you see of this dude. You don't
We
see
don't know whether
anything
he's
else.
alive. We don't know whether he's dead. Maybe there's a Feed the Gods 2 coming.
Who knows? And he's like the new like, okay, now you have to fucking
Right.
feed the
Right.
gods.
You now
find
have to
me
feed the
my
gods.
fucking yeah. So then the next scene you're getting this cop interrogation, and now you can
Now,
tell
wait.
that these cops
you
are in
notice-
on it too.
Did you notice as they drove out of town when they hit the city limit or the area limit, there was a red line drawn in the road?
Mm-hmm.
You never saw that going into town, but when they were driving their asses out of town to get away, the brother distracted them long enough for them to get across that red line. So I guess,
yeah, because the guy with the shotgun that got mauled by Biggie, he was saying, I've never crossed that red line.
right,
Like, and he wants to be able to, and
right,
everything.
he wanted out.
And dumbass doesn't know how easy it is for him to just walk across the line.
Right, it's right there, bro. It's okay.
Yeah, it's there, dude. You don't have to stay here and deal with these crazy people.
You can go to the next town. There's a whole bunch of people with AR-15s that Demon Biggie. Just cross the red line and go get them. They'll come back for it. It's okay. He won't last long.
Yeah, so in this interrogation, you can tell the cops are like, yeah, fuck you. You guys are pulling our chain. But also you get this feel like the cops are in on it too. But then you get the cop is in town and you can see he found blood in the house where dude got mauled, and then he's walking around, his dog runs off. So he's looking for his dog, and he's coming up and he finds this like shirt, and he goes to reach for it and gets his hand caught in a fucking bear trap, and he's screaming, and everything, and then you just get back to the interrogation, and dude's like, you know what? I'm calling this off and blah blah blah, like I'm calling these guys in. You got to hear this shit, and so the dude starts walkie-talkieing in, and he's like, you're not hearing really much, and then you fucking hear him, then you get the walkie-talkie and it's dead, and he's like trying to call him in, and then you get someone's gonna speak, and you hear that, and you just send help. So you're like, oh shit, Biggie knows how to use a walkie-talkie, so you're like, all right, dope. And then credits, right? So then you're like, okay, cool. And then like the credits go really fast, and you get this like cave scene, and you're seeing skulls, and like human skulls, like
human
a
bones,
boneyard.
graveyard. Yeah, boneyard.
And then you get the cop that fucking got his hand in the thing, and he's waking up and he doesn't got his shirt on and shit, and he's like looking around like, and then that's the end of the fucking movie. It's like, okay, so he ends up being food for the gods, I guess. Like,
they totally left it open for Feed the Gods 2, but I don't believe that it is in production, so who knows where they were going with that part of it. But definitely some plot holes, definitely some why did we even need the Adderall? It was, okay, dude smoked pot at home but didn't bring any with him to the woods. There's just a whole lot of but all in all, I dug this one. I like it.
No, yeah, it was a good movie.
I actually stopped what I was doing in quite a few pieces of the movie and actually watched it, especially when Biggie showed up. When Biggie showed up, it had my full attention.
Well, I mean, he shows up pretty much early in it with that whistle scene. I mean, that's what got me hooked. Was like, okay, that's an awesome way to introduce Biggie, because I've seen that video. There's an actual video where a guy is like, like you hear him like, stay back, to his kid and shit, and you see that same scene. So one of our Squatchin' fucking fans will fucking definitely know what video I'm talking about. I'm surprised I don't know the name of this fucking video, but
I can't think of what it is either
I'll
right
find
now.
it, or someone
we'll figure it
will.
out.
But it's out there, trust me.
Exactly.
But yeah, 2 thumbs up for this one. It was good. Didn't have shitty music. Didn't have corny fucking.
Didn't follow the Bigfoot
characters.
formula. Had a complete formula of its own.
Oh, it really did.
I liked the premise of it. I'd watch Feed the Gods 2. I would really watch Dear God No Part 2. We might have to film that ourselves. But as far as Feed the Gods go, definitely for sure one of the better Bigfoot movies out there. Anything you want to wrap up with this week, sir? Go to westlosner.com. All the art's
buy some shit, people.
That's right. Support a starving artist.
Soon, so it would be nice to not have to carry a whole lot.
That painting right behind your shoulder is just so badass with the little girl and the cripple squatch or the cut up squatch. That is just such a badass painting. I don't understand how that's still sitting on your wall. Anyhow,
it needs to be displayed in like a public thing. Like
something.
Me just being a tattoo artist is not going to get too far in the art world.
LesLosner.com. All right, people. Well, this is going to wrap it up for the first edition of season 2 for you. And we have another episode of What the Fuck's Up Theater. Join the fellas and let's see what kind of adventure they got into this week. We'll check you out next Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific. Thanks, and may the Squatch be with you.
Meanwhile, in the cockpit of the Bigfoot, open scene fades from the outside view of a giant, hairy bipedal ape flying through the air like Superman to the inside view of the cockpit. We find your old pal Wes at the wheel, and the Reverend depressed and worried about his missing biotic Grundle. We see the Rev pacing while reading the instruction manual. Let's listen in.
What was it that the general said was so damn important?
Remember, Reverend, do not forget Super Grundle, very great responsibility. The stronger the fury, the stronger the grandeur of power. Oh, and reverence, come closer. Come more closer. Closer. Your grandeur have a tracking device. See a page of tour.
GPS tracking device. Oh, here it is, page 42. Hey, Wes, here's that bitch's GPS numbers. Get me there, because I know you got to find the asshole that wrote that fucking harmonica song.
All right, Rev, let's go. Roger that, Delta 10-9er. This is Echo Meldrum 420-FUCK. Permission to land Nashville Tower.
Roger, Echo Meldrum 420-FUCK. Permission granted. Use runway 25 and follow the yellow line to the hangars. Roger. Over.
All right, Westful, thanks for the drop-off. I'll find that whore no matter where she runs to, these hillbillies. She's got my grundle, but I've got the tracking device. I'll call you as soon as I can get it back and I need a pickup. Be well.
For sure, dude. Agent Morrill has some intel on the whereabouts of that motherfucker that wrote that fucking harmonica song, dude. He's a fucking dead man, bro. All right, Biggie, let's go.